afternoon and welcome to Virtual Day Trip to Wine Country. I'm Sam Kimball from New York Wine Events. Today is a special day. Today we have a double header. We are visiting not one, two wine brands today in Lieb Cellars and Bridge Lane Wines.
Right.
Both of these are prominent North Fork-based wineries owned and run by the same group and team. So you are in for a treat. A quick primer, and then we'll get into it and we'll introduce our guest speaker of the day. Lieb Cellars is in Cutchogue, New York, about 85 miles east of New York City, founded by the Lieb family in 1992. And they produce wines that they love to drink and are very proud to pour. And their signature is a Pinot Blanc that speaks to a style that they've developed for their house style. It's clean, it's fresh, fruit-driven wine. They're also really known to deliver on value wines, especially in the context of New York State wines, which is awesome because today you're going to learn not only about the wines, but also how you can buy them at their website and even pick them up curbside while we're all on quarantine. You can learn about all the wines and buy them at liebcellars.com. And part two of the doubleheader is Bridge Lane Wines, which is the second label of Lieb Cellars, located in Mattituck, a few miles away from the parent winery on the North Fork of Long Island. And they're known for their alternative formats. And what do I mean by formats? We're talking about the vessel that the wine comes in, whether it's a bottle or a keg or a can or a bag. They were the first at Bridge Lane Wines to really innovate in that area. And they also distribute to 14 states. So they're one of the most widely distributed New York State wines, which is really cool. And you can learn all about Bridge Lane Wines at bridgelanewine.com. And as always, if you have questions during our 20-minute session today in our virtual tasting, please put them in the chat module in Zoom. And we will tackle those in the latter portion of our talk. I should also note that we here at New York Wine Events have had wonderful experience working with both of these brands at our events in the past. So it's, without further ado, my privilege and my pleasure to introduce our guest host of the day, the general manager, the boss of Lieb Cellars and Bridge Lane Wines, Ami Opisso. Welcome, Amy, and good afternoon to you.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Sam. Hi, everybody.
It's great to have you. Tell us a little bit more about these brands, if you would, their background and the approach to wine. We'll get into lots of details, but you know, what's a soundbite for Lieb Cellars and a little bit of a backgrounder on the soundbite?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, Lieb Cellars was established in 1992 by Mark Lieb. He was our founder. And there's a little bit of an interesting backstory there. The vineyard was planted prior, but the original owner of the vineyard thought he was planting Chardonnay. He in fact planted Pinot Blanc. He had gotten some cuttings from the Finger Lakes. And when a couple years later, when he found out it was actually Pinot Blanc in the ground and not Chardonnay, he decided to put his vineyard up for sale. And Mark Lieb was looking, there's a photo of one of our vineyards. Mark Lieb was looking for a vineyard to buy and found the Pinot Blanc grape out here to be appealing. He had consulted with our winemaker, Russell Hearn, back then, and Russell said, by the way, I think growing conditions for Pinot Blanc is really good here. And, you know, he appreciated the grape and said I could make it in the style of sort of clean, crisp, Northern Italian type Pinot Bianco or Pinot Blanc. And that's sort of how the whole thing started. So Mark said, you know, the original owner said, I only want Chardonnay, I'm gonna sell. And Mark said, I like Pinot Blanc, I'm gonna buy it. So he bought the original 14-acre vineyard in 1992, and then subsequently expanded to 85 acres, a winery, and 2 tasting rooms. And then he wound up selling to a group of investors, including Russell, our winemaker in 2014. So I came in at that point, 2013, 2014, and we rebranded both the Lieb Cellars line and the Bridge Lane line. But from the beginning, because it was the original vineyard and because Pinot Blanc is a little bit of a unique grape, and we do have 14 acres of it planted, it has been our flagship. And like you said, it also speaks really well to our house style, which is very clean, crisp, fruit and mineral driven wines. And that's exactly what our Pinot Blanc is.
That's awesome. So, and there is some Pinot Blanc other than Lieb Cellars grown on the North Fork, but you don't see it as much as some of the other very common varietals, or some of the ones that are very common to the AVA. Is that right?
Exactly. There are a couple of other producers out here. Shin is one of them. I think Palmer is one of them. A couple other producers that have an acre or two planted, and I think initially probably started out as more experimental. And they do produce Pinot Blancs, but a little bit more limited production than us. We sort of really hung our hat on Pinot Blanc, and we make about 2,000 cases of it every year.
So I always tease our audience, and when we're at events and when we're on our wine tours, I say Americans are boring. We tend to drink the same kinds of wines. They're from the 6 noble grapes. We drink Cabernet Sauvignon, we drink Merlot, we drink some Sauvignon Blanc, maybe a little Chardonnay. And one of the things that I always challenge people to do when they're at our events, our grant tastings, and at our tours, is to find their new grape varietal, their new favorite grape varietal that they've never had before, because like all of the rest of us, they were boring and they were drinking Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon and Pinot.
That's so smart to do that. And it's a common question that we ask in the tasting room too when guests visit us. Like, you know, if they are reluctant to try something new, usually what we'll say is, hey, you know, why don't you tell us a wine that you do like? And if they say Pinot Grigio, we might say, you should try Pinot Blanc, because it's kind of similar to Pinot Grigio. It's typically a little bit more complex, and sometimes has a little bit more body than Pinot Grigio. So a lot of Pinot Grigio drinkers try Pinot Blanc and like it. The same thing with somebody who says, I really only drink Pinot Noir. And we say, okay, that means you like a lighter style, fruity red. Why don't you try Cabernet Franc? It's also lighter style, kind of red fruit driven, but with a little bit of spice to it. And then they typically like that. So it's a good question to prompt experimentation. Like, what do you like? And then we can suggest something similar to that.
Well, it's funny. And occasionally, once in a blue moon, I tell the following story about Pinot Noir. I was at a business dinner a few years ago, and I got nominated to choose the wine that off the wine list at the restaurant. And I said, what does everybody like? And one of the people who was with us that evening, this woman said, I only drink Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
And that sort of got my juices going. And I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to pick the biggest, baddest California red Zinfandel on the wine list.
Yeah.
A Turley or a Camus.
Yeah.
And we're going to try that.
Yeah.
And the wine came, and the waiter poured it, and she said, oh my God, this is amazing Pinot Noir. So that's
it's almost, you can always view a statement like that as a challenge, because typically someone that's making a statement like that, I mean, I hate to say it, but they don't always know what they're talking about, you know? Because
or they watch the movie Sideways too many times.
Yes. Or, you know, maybe she's drinking a lot of California Pinot Noir, which, you know, if it's really warm weather Pinot Noir, it can tend to taste more like a Cab Sauv. So, you know, it also depends on, you could say that you just like one grape, but the variation within that one varietal can be so wide. So it's
true.
It's a good move.
True, but she fell in love with that wine. But you know,
Yeah.
this was like California Red Zin that was so big and bold and dark. It was practically black in color.
So far from what she's probably typically
It was the
drinking.
polar opposite. So that's, to me,
Success.
when you talk about Pinot Blanc and Lieb Cellars, I love that because it gets the audience thinking there's other grapes.
Yes.
And some of them are fabulous. Quick question before we move on. Pinot Blanc, is it as difficult to grow in this climate as Pinot Noir?
No. It is fairly difficult in the fact that it does like to crop high. So you do have to be very careful with pruning and crop thinning. But according to Russell, like, you know, when I asked him, Russell, our winemaker, when I asked him the question of what do you think should be more widely planted out here based on matching the conditions needed for a grape to the weather patterns out here. And he is surprised that there's not more Pinot Blanc planted because it is pretty ideally suited for our temperatures and our soils. The only challenge with Pinot Blanc, like I said, is that it tends to crop high. So if you grow too much Pinot Blanc, you're going to get a fairly bland one. But if you're careful with your pruning and your crop thinning, you can make very elegant, nuanced, complex Pinot Blanc here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. We got a sense there of Lieb Cellars. What's the sound bite? What's the elevator pitch description about Bridge Lane wines? What's it all about? And how should people think about that as they approach the brand?
Well, it's corny. I guess it's kind of corny to talk about taglines, but the tagline, I have a marketing background, so I'm always thinking about like, what's the one thing that we can say about this brand? And the tagline for Bridge Lane is 5 craft wines, 4 ways. And that is because for Bridge Lane, we are champions of alternative packaging. You know, we had sort of established ourselves and our credibility with the Lieb estate line, which was founded in 1992. But Mark Lieb and his former management team actually introduced Bridge Lane in 2004. But sort of the issue that I had with it, the brand, when I started in 2013, was that it really hadn't established its own identity outside of Lieb. It was a lot of the same varietals, a lot of the same look, a lot of the same price points. And, you know, when I sat down with the team in 2013, we just decided, okay, if we're going to keep Bridge Lane, let's make it its own thing. And as a casual sort of entry-level second label, we felt like we should have some fun with it, you know, and we didn't need to take ourselves so seriously with the Bridge Lane line. And what was appealing to us was focusing on alternative. We started, you know, we just threw out, should we make box wine? Yes, we should. Should we make some keg wine? Why not? And the reasons for that is because those packaging types or formats make sense for so many reasons for a second label. One, in that, you know, the first reason is because a lot of the packaging is more eco-friendly than glass. The second really big reason is that with an entry line, we were looking to provide even more value in terms of our pricing, and alternative packaging allowed us to do that because purchasing cans or bag-in-box materials and kegs is cheaper than purchasing, you know, glass bottles. So we believed in and then the third reason was because a lot of these vessels are really work to help preserve the integrity of the wine. So, you know, when you're drinking wine out of a box, it stays fresh it doesn't get oxidized for
it's sealed, right?
A month, right? So there's all these benefits to alternative packaging, and the fact that we had a second label, we felt like this is a no-brainer. You know, having the second label be our casual label allows us to not be traditional and have a little fun with this brand. And then, you know, on top of that, the other thing that we discussed as a team was that you know, think about where we are out here. We were doing at the time, now we're doing a lot more wholesale than we were back then. But back then we were almost, I think 90% direct to consumers, so meaning we were selling most of the wines out of the tasting room and through our wine clubs. And we said, okay, if we're selling mostly through the tasting room, it's a lot of people who live out here. And we live among parks and beaches and places where you go hiking and places where you go boating. So alternative packaging in terms of a lifestyle fit for a lot of our customers also just made all the sense in the world. So, you know, in 2014, we rebranded Bridge Lane and decided to really focus on alternative packaging. And we haven't looked back since then. It's been really successful.
It's been a hit.
Yeah, it has. And that's why you said, you know, in 2014, we were distributing in 1 state and now we're in 14, and the Bridge Lane brand is driving a lot of that. There is a lot of interest in our alternative packaging.
No, that's awesome. So a little bit about both brands. In terms of grapes, is everything estate? Is it all from property where you grow the vines and harvest the grapes?
So one of the biggest differentiating factors between the two labels, Lieb Cellars and Bridge Lane, is that Lieb wines are made with 100% estate grown grapes. So all of the fruit that we're using to go into the Lieb wines comes from the vineyards that we own and farm. And then with Bridge Lane, because of the popularity of that brand and are needing to sort of scale up and produce more of that, we've actually started sourcing grapes from our neighbors. So we source from other local vineyards and from growers that our winemaker has relationships with in the Finger Lakes. So the Lieb wines are and will always be made with estate-grown fruit. The Bridge Lane wines are made with a combination of estate-grown fruit and fruit that we source within New York State.
Got it. Awesome. Well, speaking of which, I think we're all at least virtually getting thirsty. So let's jump into the tasting.
Okay.
Which one should we start with?
I think the sparkling Pinot Blanc.
Okay.
So
I will get that one up. And it's on my screen for everybody watching. This is the signature wine of Lieb. Is that correct?
yes, so we make, with our Pinot 14 acres of Pinot Blanc, we make a still version and a sparkling version. This is the sparkling version. Got it.
Awesome.
I'm going to pour a little.
Excellent.
And I can tell you, you know, this is a very popular wine for us. I mean, when you asked me to choose wines to taste today, I basically just chose the wines I wanted to drink. So I really love this wine. And the reason I love it is because it's made in the traditional French champagne method, but it's made with, and it would be considered in France, it would be considered a Blanc de Blancs, a white sparkling made from white grapes. Mm-hmm. And, but the reason why it's unique is because Blanc de Blancs are typically made with Chardonnay, and this sparkling wine is made with 100% Pinot Blanc. And what Pinot Blanc does to a sparkling wine versus Chardonnay is it creates a sparkling that's a little bit lighter, a little crisper, a little bit more citrusy. I mean, a lot of the tasting notes for sparkling wine is driven by the production methods and how long the wine sits on, it's called the lees, the dead yeast cells, which is a whole other conversation. But the characteristics that Pinot Blanc lends to sparkling wine, oh, there's the winery, is it creates a sparkling that's really kind of light and fresh and citrusy, and not so much kind of buttery and toasty and heavy. So it is a wine that is so refreshing and effervescent and delicate, and it's just you know, great for a summer sitting outside, you know, pairing with certain foods. And I think it's a sparkling Pinot Blanc again is there. I don't know of many sparkling Pinot Blancs made in the world, so it's pretty unique to us.
And would you open this sparkling Pinot Blanc, you know, before dinner, almost as something to have while getting ready for dinner?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a perfect sort of, you know, to kind of wet your whistle and get your appetite going. It is a great kind of refreshing wine that you could drink even prior to starting a meal, or with the first course of a meal, with some light cheeses or salads or fresh seafoods, shellfish and stuff like that.
Okay, so this is a tough question, but we're all in quarantine. Everybody's ordering
Yes.
in a lot of food, a lot of pizza and a lot of Chinese food that's being ordered.
Yeah.
What would you pair this one with in right now?
In the context of quarantine, I guess I would choose for this. This might sound really weird, but I drink this with. You mentioned like when you're kind of getting ready for dinner.
Yeah.
Something that I snack on prior to making dinner a lot right now is guacamole. And I do, like, you know, chips dipped in guac or carrots dipped in guac. And this pairs really well with that. That's because awesome. It's kind of got that rich creaminess, but it's got, you know, a little bit of spice and a little fruitiness. So the bubbles in this and the carbonation helps to kind of break that up. So I would say, you know, there's a Mexican place called Lucharitos out here that does fantastic Mexican takeout right now, and their guac is really good. So get a little guacamole from Lucharitos, pair it with this while you're making dinner. Delicious.
I think I have tomorrow's menu.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for that. Excellent. All right, what should we move on to next?
Okay, so I think I brought I wanted to taste the rosé with you. And as we mentioned, the Bridge Lane wines are packaged, each of the 5 Bridge Lane wines. So we make a rosé, a Sauvignon Blanc, a white Merlot, an unoaked Chardonnay, and a red blend. And each of the 5 Bridge Lane wines are packaged in bottles, boxes, cans, and kegs. I figured, since I'm in the tasting room and there are very few of us here right now, there's only 2 of us working in the office today. Everybody else is working from home. It wouldn't be a good idea to open up. I wanted to open an alternative format, but I didn't want to open a box or certainly a keg, because a keg has 26 bottles worth of wine in it. So I decided
we'd have to wait till you finish it, and you know that could get interesting.
Right, exactly. And then I'd have to call an Uber. So I decided to open a can with you guys, and this can is filled with our 2019 Bridge Lane Rosé, so it's a relatively new release. And our rosé of the 5 Bridge Lane varietals, plus we have one more that was just recently released, a little of Bridge Lane Bubbles. But of the now 6 varietals, the rosé is by far our most popular. So this, I think, is a good one for us to try, and it's also my favorite Bridge Lane wine. I rarely am without a box of rosé in my fridge. There's one in there. There's one in there right now. There usually is one in there. And I have my little cheat sheet here. But our Bridge Lane rosés are always predominantly Cab Franc. That is the grape that our winemaker Russell believes works really well works the best of all the red grapes that we have planted in our rosé program. So all of our rosé is Cab Franc based, but this also has some Merlot in it, some Malbec, some Pinot Noir, and believe it or not, a splash of Pinot Blanc as well.
Wow.
So our signature made its way into this wine as well.
true rosé blend, and it's up on the screen next to me. And what's great about these is, for people who aren't familiar with them, they're exactly the same size as a regular can of Coca-Cola or ginger ale. It's 12 ounces. It's basically 2 glasses of wine in that can.
Yep.
So super portable and great for outings, especially in the warm weather or picnic or the beach. And also a little deceptive because, you know, that's a half bottle of wine.
It's a half a bottle of wine, and people do get into trouble because you get a hold of a can and you think it's a single serving, but you drink 2 of them and then you've drank a bottle of wine. So
Drink 2 of them, you think it's ginger ale, and it's
yes.
it's
So it can catch you.
Yep.
But the can is like such an exciting format for us. We first released, we were the first Long Island winery to put wine in can in summer of 2017. And it's been so fun for us to have this format. And it's so rewarding to see it doing so well because it's a format that we really believe in and we really enjoy. I mean, our winemaker is a sailor as well. So when we discussed putting wine in can, he was like, I can put it in my cooler when I go sailing. Like it's just perfect. So there's just so many times where a heavy glass bottle just doesn't make sense. And this is the perfect vessel for when you want portability and the ability to quickly chill your wine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So should we head to the Cab Franc?
Yes.
So I'm going to do a little Cab Franc pitch here because I'm a huge.
You like Cab Franc? Yeah.
I love Cab Franc, and in the spirit of what I was saying earlier about pushing people to discover more and different types of grapes, I tell them, look, Cab Franc, it's actually one of the 6 noble grapes, but it's one of probably the least known, is a grape that grows really well in our New York climate.
Correct.
So most people don't know this, but Cab Franc in New York State is of course a major wine region. Cab Franc is the unofficial red wine grape of the state of New York. And so when you are drinking New York State wines, which have now become world class, you should always try a Cab Franc because it's the hometown grape.
It is. It's if you were to choose one red wine to taste when you're going on a tour to 3 or 4 different vineyards in a day, a great way to kind of gauge the style of each of the wineries is to try a Cab Franc at every winery you go to, because it's a grape that's like you said, really well suited to the climate and the growing conditions here. And you know, it's funny, there's been this debate now for a while among winemakers out here over what is the better grape for Long Island. Is it Cabernet Franc or is it Merlot? And I think Russell really kind of straddles the fence on that. For a while, he's like, it has to be Merlot because Merlot is more consistent. There's more Merlot planted. But every year, I think that he makes Cabernet Franc and makes really good ones. You know, we're tasting it together, and I can see that his eyes light up a little bit more when he's tasting Cab Franc. And it's because a lot of the Cab Francs on Long Island and Lieb's Cab Franc is really great. And it's, like I said before, what's so nice about Cab Franc is that it's got really, really nice fruit profiles, but it's a little bit lighter and a little bit softer than a typical Cabernet Sauvignon, for example. And it has, which I really enjoy, it has this like hint of spiciness that adds like this kind of dimension to it that makes it a little bit more interesting. So absolutely. I love Cab Francs. It's the red wine that I personally drink the most.
So if you were having a meal in these times now, and maybe start off with the Pinot Blanc
Mhm.
sparkling, and then transition to the
Absolutely.
Cab Franc.
And Cab Franc.
What would you pair?
I mean, this is so boring, but you got to drink this with burgers on the grill.
I love that.
I know everyone says it. This is a pizza or a burger wine, or even like a kind of a grilled chicken wine, because it's not really heavy or robust enough to stand up to like a steak or a beef or a stew.
Right.
But it is. It pairs really well with a burger because it's got some acidity and it's got a little spiciness to it. So again, that kind of helps break up the fattiness and the heaviness of a burger.
That's
So
awesome.
throw a burger on the grill, maybe some really good cheese on top of it, and then have some Cab Franc.
I'm getting some Cab Franc from you for curbside pickup, and we're gonna make some burgers.
So good.
That is great. So now, where can we buy these wines?
So obviously right now is a little bit of a strange time with our tasting rooms. We have a Lieb Cellars tasting room and a Bridge Lane tasting room. Bridge Lane is closed temporarily. Lieb Cellars is open for to-go purchases. So you can either, I'm actually sitting in the library room of the tasting room right now. So you could either walk in and we can do a hands-free to-go transaction at the bar, or you can just give us a call when you're on your way. We can take your order over the phone and we can leave it outside on the barrel for you to pick up. So we're doing to-go purchases out of Lieb 12 to 5 every day. And then we also are doing a ton of online business. I mean, it really is the sales channel that is delivering for us right now. It was a really, really scary thing for us to have to close our tasting rooms to normal service. But what we found almost immediately was that once we did that, our customers started ordering online, and it has not stopped. I mean, we thought we'd start seeing it trailing off a little bit the longer this quarantining and social distancing goes on. But we're just seeing our online orders actually grow. And so that's been awesome. And if any of the viewers want to order from us online, we have 2 big promotions going on right now. One is, normally our friends and family discount is 20% off, but we've decided to extend that to everyone for right now until our tasting rooms reopen for normal service. So the code for that, it says it when you go to our shop, is FNF. So if you go to our shop, you can get 20% off your purchases. And then we also offer free shipping on orders $50 or more all the time. That always has, we've always offered that.
I got to stop you. You're offering 20% off across the board, any size order, and free shipping of any orders over $50?
Yes, which is probably why we're getting so much website traffic.
What's not to like?
Yeah, so and luckily we have been able to keep up with it. We're shipping, typically within 1 to 2 business days from when the order is placed, and we're getting a lot of orders online. So we're really appreciating that. The other promotion that we have going on right now is, while our tasting rooms are closed, we actually increased our wine club member discount. So our members are all getting 25% off right now instead of 15 or 20. So, I mean, it's honestly a way for us to try to say, hey, stick with us. We know you can't come visit us. We know that we can't give you the typical benefits of being here, but we want to offer you something in the meantime. So hopefully you can keep enjoying our wines and following us until we're able to reopen again.
That's awesome. So I'm going to repeat a couple things just so everybody is clear. liebcellars.com.
Yes.
And bridgelanewine.com.
Correct.
That's where you go. And if you happen to live in Suffolk County, or if you're near the North Fork or the east end of Long Island, You can order ahead and pick up. It sounds like you have a great system there, almost like contactless pickup and
Yes,
delivery.
yes.
So that's awesome to have. And last but not least, the discount code is FNF. Is that Frank, Nancy, Frank?
That's correct. Frank, Nancy, Frank for 20% off everything online.
20% off everything online and free shipping, which is a huge deal if you order $50 or more.
I'm like, it's just something that I'm not willing to compromise on. Like we have to offer free shipping. It's just, as a regular consumer of, purchasing things online, I will seek out free shipping, like at all costs. So
I mean, I totally agree. I will get a notification from, a couple of the really good wine retailers that I'm on their list, and they'll recommend some awesome selection. And I'll be like, you know what? I'll get a bottle. Let me get 2 bottles. And the shipping, let's say it's a $25 or a $29 bottle of wine. The shipping is another 20 something dollars.
It's outrageous.
I abandon those carts.
Same.
99% of the time.
Same. It's just the principle of it. And when we are selling wine at retail prices versus wholesale prices, we do have more margin built in, obviously. So we are able to absorb the shipping costs, and in turn, we sell a lot more wine online. So it's a win for us, and it's a win for all of our customers as well.
For the customer. So before we wrap, Amy, we do have a question.
Okay.
The question is, the Bridge Lane package art is so cute. Was that important at all during your relaunch, and did it contribute to the success of that effort?
Thank you for saying that. I think I am very proud of the Bridge Lane branding. My background is actually in branding and marketing, so I did lead the rebrand on that, and I worked with a freelance graphic designer to create the branding for Bridge Lane. And the question of whether or not that was important, and that's kind of driving the success of the brand. I don't think that it's everything. I mean, I think wine quality is always number one, because if you have really cute packaging or creative packaging, and the wine inside the package sucks, you're not going to get, it's not going to be a success. So, I think what's really driving Bridge Lane's success is the fact that the wine over delivers and is very high quality. But what's really important about the branding is that it helps tell the story of the brand, and also set the tone for the brand. And it is very kind of light and colorful and playful and casual, and that's what Bridge Lane is all about. So there was a lot of kind of effort and thinking that went into the way that packaging looks, and I think that has certainly contributed to the success of the brand. But like I said, the most important thing is that the wine is good. And it is.
They buy the packaging and the brand.
Yes.
The brand ethos, and they fall in love with the wine. So that's a great formula.
Yep.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for being a part of a virtual day trip to wine country. I feel like we took people for a visit to both places today, virtually, and we got all of your amazing insights. By the way, Amy is a certified sommelier. So
yes.
She's not just talking the talk, she's walking the walk.
Oh God, I think I got certified in 2013, so it's been a while. I'm a little rusty, but I do know a lot about these wines because I drink them a lot.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to do at some point in the future, we're going to do a blind tasting with professionals from the industry in New York State on Zoom. So we're going to send those bottles to you, and we'll get you and 3 or 4 other people on a panel in Zoom like this. And I bet you do pretty well. That
sounds very, very fun. Blind tasting, I always am typically terrible at, but I think it's fun, even when I get it all wrong.
You could send Russell. I mean, if you want to send a winner.
I need to have him as right. I'm gonna have to cheat a little bit. I'll have him under the table or something.
Exactly. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much. Stay safe. And we look forward to you guys reopening the tasting rooms hopefully soon. And we will see you soon. We'll do another one of these. We'll pair a meal with your wines.
That sounds really good. Thank you so much for having me, and you guys all stay safe too. And hopefully I'll see you when the tasting rooms reopen for normal service.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Bye,
day.
Sam. Bye.
Bye-bye.